Good evening. We're doing a sit and talk in part because I've been so busy through the day, and my face looks a little tired because I've been working. But I feel terrific, and there's a subject I want to play around with. And it is my perception that people, for all that they say about Trump, they don't really get him. It's like they're too polite in a way and too inexperienced also and not cynical enough. They look at him and they keep thinking that he just doesn't understand, like emotions, caring for someone else, and so forth. He knows how to affect the words to tell us that, but he doesn't feel those things. And if you don't understand that about him, you do not understand him. How else can you have a fellow who says, hey, why don't we practice war games in the cities of the United States with our own military? What is that about? Isn't that about martial law? Why don't we ask the questions that way? So what I propose to do is to try to break out of some of this. There's the thing about, think outside the box, and then some people say, lose the box, don't even have a box, figure out how to approach it. And Trump has done everything he can to remove the box. That is the law, the Constitution, and everything else. And people are still responding as if those things matter. And they do in certain contexts, but you have to know where. You have to know where it is that we can move and have an effect, as opposed to playing a sucker to his game in which he ignores the rules and then tries to enforce the rules on us. That's not acceptable. But it begins with the character or lack of character of Trump. And people talk about it, but they don't quite believe it. And when Trump puts out one of these BS AI things, and he just says, I don't know where it came from, and I just left it on. And so he is seeking to get a resistance to the Democrats. And people say, why would he do it? Well, give me another reason. He had somebody make up this thing, and then he put it on his big outlet, his big platform, so everybody would see it, and then he just scratches his head and then he takes it down. But the damage is done. He suggests, I have a card for you, and with this card, you'll never have to worry about health care again, to offset the Democrats. But the Democrats say, it's a mystery, and it's funny, and what does it mean? What it means is he is, in plain view, manipulating the conversation in such a way that he can be the evil, unforgiving, hurtful, harmful, vengeful person that he is. And unless we understand that about him, we have no business fighting him. And we can't afford not to fight him, so we have to learn how to fight him. Now, how are we going to do this? Now, I'm talking to you, and you're already there. So why should I talk to you about this? And it is because the parallels are so powerful of who historically brands over the centuries this guy Trump for whom he is. Now, some of you are probably familiar with me quoting at some frequency Seneca, a Roman senator. And he has considered, in my opinion, what we are suffering now, and he has put it forth in an essay on anger. Now, the thing about this is Seneca had some problems living the life that he wrote about so brilliantly in Latin. And if you remember, if any of you studied Latin, they have a thing called a trot. So one side of the page is in Latin and the other side is in English. And so I've had these books of some of the great past authors in Greece and Rome and other places. And this trot allows you, if you remember a little bit of Latin, for example, or some other language, it sort of is more enjoyable reading. But that we're not going to do that today. Now, Seneca wrote years ago as a senator. He was an advisor to, get this, Nero, in good and bad times. It was a job that literally cost Seneca his life, his head, in the bad times, toward the end, when apparently, according to historians, they believe Nero lost his sense. the image of him fiddling while Rome burns. Anyhow, Seneca knew anger. He said it rests on nothing solid, and whatever rises without a firm foundation is liable to fall. Now keep this in mind when you're talking about Trump. Nothing solid. Everything about Trump is brand of building. I don't want to build it. I just want to have a name. I want to run down avenues celebrating myself. Alexander the Great, when he came into a nation state that he was occupying, he would have somebody in his chariot telling him, we paid for these people are here for you. I'm sure that wasn't enough. But Trump has nobody like that. Trump believes his own BS. Now, Seneca called anger an empty thing, as far removed from greatness as soul, as foolhardiness is from bravery. See that? Removed from greatness of soul, as foolhardy is from bravery. And Trump is not brave. He's a coward. He repeatedly gives us demonstrations of this. Now, Seneca says you need put no trust in the words of the angry, for their noise is loud and threatening, but when their heart is very cowardly. So they're loud, they're threatening, but they're cowards. Isn't that exactly what Trump is? Isn't that why he wants to be surrounded by security, why he wants to sip water, why he wants to walk carefully down an incline at one of his appearances? Trump doesn't want to walk up an escalator. A credit to his wife, who never gave it a second thought, like you or I. It stopped, you'd go, oh, darn, and then you'd walk up. Just as to your right and left, people were walking up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs or the bottom of the stairs, somebody may have hit some safety thing that stopped the escalator. And as they all just arrived there at that time, he would prefer to believe there was some major conspiracy. Now, so you need put no trust in the words of the angry. Seneca says, greatness of the soul is a thing unshakable, sound to the core, uniform and strong from top to bottom, something that cannot exist in evil nature. There's no greatness in this man. This man is a rube. This man is a street animal. He's a man who has really no ideals at all, because a man of, or woman or anybody of high ideals would be looking to say, genuinely bring people to a peace table. But he wants to have somebody actually give him a Nobel Peace Prize for something he tried to make peaceful, but helped to not work at all. That's certainly what's going on with Ukraine. And I think the same thing's going on in the Middle East when we're talking about Hamas and Israel. So what do we have? The President of the United States, the President of the disunited States, and the Secretary of War are of their natures quite evil. We see it daily. We saw it with the demonstration before the generals yesterday, I guess it was. And we see it with the closing down of the government right now as I'm speaking to you. People tomorrow may not have jobs. They may work without pay. They may be told to go home. They may never have work again. Anger is that which overleaps reason and sweeps it away. The third prompting of anger is beyond control. It's out of control. That's Trump. It wishes to take vengeance, not if it is right to do so, but whether or no, and has utterly vanquished reason. Now, I'm quoting Seneca there, but what he's saying is vengeance trumps small t all for Trump. The question is whether those who are habitually cruel and rejoice in human blood and angry when they kill people from whom they have never received injury, nor think even themselves that they have received one. This is brutal when persons, Trump specifically, has expelled from the mind every conception of the human bond. It passes at last into cruelty, making a pastime of ferocity. So what I'm saying is a condition that maybe some psychologist today would comment on, or some psychiatrist, or some political analyst, and some have, but we don't see them talking in the evening shows. It's too startling to say the obvious. What kind of person says, I'm going to let you have war games in the streets of the United States in violation of posse comitatus and the Insurrection Act? Who says that? A traitor says that. That's who says that. A person who seeks to be a dictator, a person who does not want a constitution, a person who does not want us to be we the people, a person who wants to eliminate those things and compromise the ability for citizens to be a force themselves to resist him. So Trump competes with present and past inhumane ogres, hoping to exceed them in hurt and horror. There's no doubt about it. He's said as much himself. This is a guy who would hurt his friends just to amuse himself. And here he has a vast canvas to paint the most evil, terrible, and horrible things with, the powers of the president. He talks about war games on the streets of our cities. When Hannibal saw a trench flowing with human blood, he said, "Oh, beauteous." It was beautiful. Excuse me. This is a hangover in the sense of my cough from our trip. So we seek virtue in our leaders, but we'd be foolish to think we could find it in our current leadership. Because we believed in virtue in our leaders, measured in different ways, before the beast came from beneath the ground, came to the United States from evil hell itself. Virtue is well disposed toward what is honorable. It is virtue's duty to feed anger toward what is base. So an interesting use in Seneca's terms of that. Our Trump is a traitor. His vice president, no better. I proposed earlier today in the writing I sent out that I think there are two things that we should start thinking about doing ourselves. Because in the absence of a framework, what is a responsible way to turn this back toward being a great nation again? And I think we have to take significant steps that fit or don't fit what was the law, since the current law is being ignored, whether it be Constitution, statute, or historic precedent. So, one, I said earlier today, we need a national referendum to throw Trump and Vance out of office as traitors. We need that, number one. Number two, we need a dramatic, all-encompassing symbol of the nation's agreement that we must destroy, burn the White House to the ground. We have to do this by agreement. This cannot be a rebellious act. This has got to be the entire nation agreeing. Now, is this some sort of sleight of hand? No, it's not. What it is to make us think outside the parameters that Trump wants us to believe in and start talking about real remedies with the resources we have that work. It would be courts, governors, the people, movements like this. Another one is that a third one, which I haven't proposed before, but I'm proposing it now. A third one is to destroy in every place there is a reference to Trump or to Vance or any of the crooked people in this administration, cleaned out, annihilated, They don't exist anymore. You want to have a history. This is a punishment that should be broadcast. There was a time when we had people try to take over this nation once and for all with force, our own armed forces with our own tax dollars paying for it, who closed down the government instead of making it work and taking care of those who needed help. And those people have been consigned to shame and disgrace. And they won't be in our museums, and they won't be in the White House, and they won't be, or whatever succeeds that. They won't be anywhere. They are once and for all done. No scarlet letters, nothing, just erased. Now, this is the old statement, you can't take it with you. And maybe Trump doesn't care what people think. But if there's one thing he does care about, it is what people think, even as he brutalizes them and hurts them. And he loves bringing them back again and treating them as if they're friends and then screwing them again. Ask Elon Musk. What the hell is he doing? Here's a guy who can own anything in the world that he wants, do almost anything he wants. And he cares about Trump? What? That's why we have to shake up the image of America again. Thomas Jefferson would support this, maybe not in the specifics that I'm talking about now. But if we don't do something soon, we won't be able to do anything. Our fight is now. Our reason is clear. And Trump, by Seneca and by any other standard, is the worst person who has ever occupied the presidency of the United States. So those are a few of my thoughts. You don't have to agree with them, obviously. I will look for your comments. And maybe tomorrow I'll be outside and talking about this. All the best. Bye-bye.